Spring is coming, so I'm starting to think about damsels. This isn't really a unique pattern per se. It's something that sort of evolved from the Whitlock Near-nuff damsel over the years. This is on a Daiichi 1560 in number 14. It's a pretty small hook. I expect aggressive fish to hit the hook and not give me short strikes. Tying this with Vivus Dark Olive 12-aught. That's the C11 olive color. So I laid down some wraps to form a base and get out my 40-pound Ultra Green Maxima. I'm going to clip off a short little section of that and hold it in my tweezers. And I'm going to take my lighter and burn the ends to get myself a set of eyes. You can buy damsel eyes that are like these little black damsel eyes. I don't like how long they are, and I don't like how bulbous they are, and I don't like how black they are. The naturals have sort of these translucent little eyes. I really like burning my own eyes for this. I think it matters. I think selective trout see those natural looking eyes. I don't know. Could be wrong. So I'm going to set those up on top and get a couple of wraps over, and then a couple of wraps the other direction, kind of getting a figure eight going over those to lock them in place. And then I'm going to go nuts and get a whole bunch of figure eights and laterally around it. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish my wraps all the way back to the bend of the hook. Now this, I do these in different colors, but here I'm using Strung Marabou Blood Quills in Damsel Green. I also like these in brown. Some of the naturals are brown. Some of them are kind of brown and olive. So I also do like a mix of brown and olive on the tail. And I do like a darker olive tail as well. Now note that what I'm calling the tail is technically the tail of the fly, but really this is pretty much the whole thing represents the wiggling abdomen. And that's why I go very short on the actual abdomen here that I'm tying and very long on the tail or the wiggly part of the abdomen. They swim, I don't know, about an inch per second like a little snake. They just wiggle back and forth and motivate forwards. So here I'm going to use some .006 diameter monofilament and tie that in as a rib and leave that until I'm ready to rib over the top. Go ahead and get that started and wrap it on back all the way back to the tail. And here we're going to take some brown antron off the spool. This brown antron is going to be the back. They have kind of this darker back in general. We'll tie that in, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull back to sort of, so I don't have to trim it. So I pull it on back to where it's just about even with the eyes. I haven't quite gone far enough with that, so it's going to stick up. So I'll back off a couple turns, and then I'm going to pull firmly and ease that back a little bit more. There we go. So I'll wrap back again and get ready to dub on the body. This is a fairly light olive squirrel with SLF. Matches the tail pretty well. Give myself a little dubbing noodle. Don't need a lot. Pretty small body. I'll go ahead and dub that on pretty tight. I don't want the body to be buggy on this. Okay, clean her up a little bit. Trim off a little excess fibers hanging out here and there. Now I'm going to take a little bit darker olive squirrel with SLF, and I'm going to get some darkness going on the thorax here. If you look at a lot of the naturals have kind of a darker thorax right before they hatch. The wing case is getting ready to pop. The thorax is darkened up. It also serves to have a bit of a dubbing ball to make these legs pop. So here we're going to grab a feather from this Hungarian partridge skin And we're going to strip this feather back and prep it. And we're going to tie in some legs V style. And I'm going to show you how to do that if you haven't seen it before. Really great way to tie in legs that I learned in probably the last 6-8 months. So you basically preen back all these fibers and leave the V of the front, the top of the feather, and tie that V in. Get a couple wraps, just loose wraps over the V at first. You don't really want tight wraps over there, because now you're going to pull it and make sure that you have both sides sort of splayed out. It's going to want to pop up to the top. All the fibers are going to want to pop up to the top on you. Just kind of use your finger to make sure that they stay splayed out to the sides. Once you've got it in place and you've pulled them to about the length that you want the legs, then lock it in place with a couple firmer wraps and come in with your scissors real tight and trim off the quill that's hanging out there. And pull those a little bit shorter. They're a little long. Damsels have pretty prominent legs, pretty long legs. Okay, I'm going to trim off the excess here. And then what I'm going to do is I really want to make sure that the orientation of these legs stays the way that I want them. So I'm going to gently come around the legs a couple times with a couple wraps. Kind of figure eight some wraps in there to sort of give a little bit of tension and pull those legs into, not that much, into the orientation that I want them, so that they're properly splayed out and they don't just sit flush against the body. I'll kind of really lock them in place and make sure they're in position. Now, here's where we take the brown antron and pull it over the fly as the back and lock that in place with a couple wraps. Or a few. Or 5. Okay, here comes the monofilament now. So as we wrap the monofilament forward and create some segmentation, ribbing forward with it, you really got to watch those legs that are sticking out there. I basically have to move the legs out of the way with every single wrap so that I don't trap them. It's a little bit painstaking, so I'll just leave it in regular speed so you can really kind of see the process all the way to the front by the eyes. That last one's kind of tricky. Then I'll pull it in front of the legs and get a couple wraps to lock it in place. Couple 3 solid wraps, and then I'll use my rotary to turn it over and trim off that monofilament. Okay, we're just about done here. So I'm going to take the back material and I'm going to pull it over the eyes. After I add just a touch more dubbing to hide those thread wraps. So I'm using even darker olive dubbing for this. Really don't want these buggy fibers, so strip off the buggy squirrel fibers. Darker squirrel with SLF and real dark olive. Here, get a few wraps of that to hide the thread wraps, and then I'm going to get a few wraps in front of the eyes over that back material, and I cut 1 or 2 in front, and then I'm going to go in and trim that off real tight. Leaves a little bit of messy antron right there, but nothing that we can't whip finish over the top of. I'm not going to bother using head cement or any kind of resin or anything on this. I'm just going to give it 2 or 3 whip finishes. It'll be plenty resilient. The main thing that's going to break down on this fly as it gets eaten by fish a lot, which it will, is that the tail will get chewed up. But that's fine. Ratty looking flies catch fish. Trim that off, and we're done. And that is Jim's Damsel. Started out, it's pretty similar to Dave Whitlock's Near-nuff, but it's just kind of evolved into this over the years. I'll also do I'll do the body in kind of a brownish color, and I'll also use brassy size gold wire as the ribbing at times, like in the monofilament these days. Thanks for watching.